Over the nearly last 2 years or so, we've had many candidates on the show and we've had requests for many more, but I don't think anyone has received as many specific requests as the congressional candidate who joins us on the show now, running in Florida's 3rd district, Adam Christensen. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Well, thanks. That's a little terrifying. I don't know how to feel about that one.
Well, if you don't deliver, then they're going to be disappointed.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of pressure there.
No pressure at all. But there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm. And so you haven't been on the show before. So let's talk a little bit about how you decided to launch this campaign. We have a lot of first-time candidates who come on the show. You're younger than most of them. I'm sure you're absolutely sick of talking about your age, but tell me a little bit about the decision to run in the 3rd district.
Yeah, I mean, I am actually the youngest Democratic nominee in the country right now, which is again terrifying. But really, I got into this kind of because I started 2 companies in Gainesville, Florida, and they were both essentially catching fraud, catching people, international suppliers trying to screw over family-owned businesses. And what I kind of realized is that we have that with our entire world, where we have the best marketing, the best distribution, but we don't have the best products anymore. Most of them, the majority of them, are fake or fraudulent. And so when I looked at the race that was going to happen, I didn't see anybody who could talk about that, who was talking about actual systemic issues, and on top of that would actually be able to put up a fight or actually be able to make a change. So our entire campaign pretty much throughout the entire primary was run by young people. It was everyone under the age of 23 and I was the old person. And so that is really what we focused on, is the things that were affecting our lives and the people around us. And that is why so many people love what we are doing, is because we're not focused on a 24-hour news cycle. We're focused on the things that actually affect our lives. And so it's been incredible. It's been 9 months. We got into it 6 months after everybody else, and yeah, here we are.
Yeah, and in the home stretch. I know that and maybe this relates to what you're talking there about the reason you launched it. You talk about in some of your campaign advertisements the sort of the lingering long-term effects of the 2008 recession. We're sort of experiencing a second version of that for a lot of young people whose lives were set back in 2008. We now have a version of that for people today. So, with that as part of the background of your run, what are some of the policies that you're highlighting as sort of the core of your campaign?
Yeah, I mean, we all remember what happened after 2008, right? You had a populist movement that sprung up. One was somewhat the Tea Party, not really a populist movement, but it happened. And then you also had Occupy. Now, with what is everything that has happened so far with the pandemic and everything else, we're gonna see that again. The question is, are we gonna come out of this pandemic and out of this bailout again and out of this stimulus package focused on people? Or are we gonna focus on banks and airlines and the same things that we did in 2008? Because most people feel like they got screwed over in 2008. They still have that feeling. The people that I talk to, they're still not recovered from that. But we have the biggest companies in the world that are not only recovered, but they're doing better than ever. And yet we never got a return of that money that we feel like we gave. So for a lot of people, they're just feeling like, if we pay taxes, we should be getting something back for that. We should be getting a return on the investment that we keep making, but we haven't. And our lives keep getting harder and everything's more expensive. And so one of the biggest things that we focused on, there's a couple of things. Number one, I need to make sure everybody has healthcare. As we've seen with the pandemic, if one person doesn't have healthcare, everyone is at risk. And on top of that, we have to make sure that essentially, and this is what our entire campaign is boiled down to, it's the rallying cry. It's, if you are working 8 hours a day, you should be able to afford a home, you should be able to start a family, and you should have money left over. And a lot of people just do not have that anymore. And so all of our policies are focused on that one specific idea. A big one that a lot of people on our campaign specifically love is the fact that we're gonna go after predatory debt. For some reason, we're not allowed to buy alcohol or cigarettes or enlist in the military when we're 17, but kids all across the country are allowed to bring on $200,000 of debt from a private company, and they will never pay that back. And nobody's protecting them. And on top of that, they're not able to buy homes now because they have so much debt. And so we want to eliminate that. We want to make it so we have the biggest housing boom in the United States history, and eliminating student debt would be one of those ways.
So you mentioned a few issues there. One is healthcare, and we're currently at a situation where we have the ACA. It's got a lot of problems. Obviously, we're looking at a potential future with Amy Coney Barrett and Trump, where hypothetically it could be overturned either legislatively or judicially. Hypothetically, let's say you get elected, Joe Biden gets elected. What are you going to be pushing for in terms of the future of healthcare policy?
Well, we all understand that the issue that happened, especially through the Obama years, was that the team that he had around him, people like Rahm Emanuel, they essentially said that, well, number one, we don't know how to negotiate, and number two, we're not gonna actually fight for things. And so they didn't even get a public option. What Joe Biden needs to do is he actually needs to go further. If you go for Medicare for all, you're gonna get a public option. If you go for nationalized healthcare system, you're gonna get Medicare for all. I think everybody understands that that's the way that you negotiate. And Republicans have understood this for a very long time. For me, the way that I frame it, especially running in a Republican area, it's a +9 here. The way I frame it is almost in a conservative narrative, because here's the deal, right? You got middlemen right now that we pay 30% to, and they do nothing. They are the insurance companies. And if you remove them, you have now just gotten rid of bureaucracy, you just got rid of red tape, you just got rid of middlemen, and you are able to help stop price fixing. That sounds pretty conservative to me. And at the same time, you now have a free market because you get to go choose your doctor and you get to go choose your hospital, and nobody else chooses for you. And so when you frame it like that, it actually, it starts to take a lot of meaning, especially for people around here. And they're like, I'm okay with that. And then you go a step further. You say, look, right now, your small business has to pay $8,000 per employee for healthcare. And you can't expand, you can't recruit, you can't grow. And every small business I know gets to a certain point where they have to start providing benefits, and they can't. And they either sell and try to get out before the whole thing collapses, or they effectively just peter out. And so Medicare for all, removing those insurance companies would be a small business tax cut. The Supreme Court said with the ACA that premiums and deductibles are taxes. So we need to start treating them like it if it comes from the government or if it comes from a private company.
And so when you use that sort of framing on it, how do the small business owners, how do they receive that?
Oh, they love it. I mean, they get $8,000 back in their pocket immediately, and that can go back to wages. And they actually understand that, look, when you invest in your people, you're gonna be able to grow. And when you have people that can take a risk, this is the most important part. Right now, people cannot take a risk. They cannot leave and start their own company because if their kid gets sick, they go bankrupt.
And so that's a great example of how to make one sort of policy that's been demonized on the right, appealing to more conservative voters. Is that the trick? Because as you pointed out, it's a redder district. You're going to be running to replace the outgoing Republican Congressman Ted Yoho, which people might remember from earlier this year. His interaction with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Interaction is the nicest spin on it. Is that what you're having to do with other policies too?
I wouldn't say have to, I'd say choose to, because we had an option, right? And this is what every Democrat has always had the option to do when you run in a Republican district. You either go effectively, you go moderate, which means you water down your policies, or you figure something else out. Now, what we have done is actually more challenging, but more exciting. We have refused to water down our policies, and instead, we decided that we were gonna play with optics and marketing and do something that nobody has ever done, which is effectively run on an extremely progressive platform, but make it seem like it's an extremely conservative one, which honestly, it is classical conservatism. You go after monopolies, you go after price fixers, and you fight off people like JP Morgan or Rockefeller, just like they used to do back in the day. You go after these people that have destroyed the free market. That is progressivism. That is economic progressivism. It's also classical economic conservatism. And there's huge parallels there. And so we find the parallels. And so when people ask us, well, how do you reach across the aisle? We say, we already are. We've got hardcore Republicans in High Springs partnering with environmentalists to fight off Nestle. We've got hardcore Republicans in Union County, one of the poorest counties in the country, partnering with environmentalists to fight off phosphate mines. Because it's about their community, and it's about themselves, and it's about making sure that their way of life doesn't get destroyed by people coming in and taking their money, taking their health, and just wiping it off the face of the planet. And so that's what we focus on, is people. And everyone seems to really resonate with that, especially when you frame it as, look, I don't care who you are. I just care about how we can build each other up and how we can actually have a community that we can be proud of. And that's really how we frame it.
Let's talk about one other person though. Your opponent in this race, the former legislative aide to Representative Yoho, Kat Cammack, I believe it's pronounced. I'm not entirely sure.
So Fox News called her Kate. I'm really not sure at this point what I think her actual name is Catherine. I'm not sure.
Okay. So what is she bringing to the table?
So I don't know if you've seen anything that's been going on, but we actually may have stumbled into one of the biggest political scandals in Florida politics history, which is just fantastic. So we've been having a lot of fun with this. We put out our first video, which was essentially called, and this was the hashtag, it was "Where's the Cattle Ranch?" So her life story is that she grew up in Colorado on a cattle ranch and a farm. And in 2011, she was bankrupted by Obama, and then she was homeless. And from that, she became Ted Yoho's campaign manager, and then eventually a 24-year-old chief of staff in Washington, D.C. And then she decided to run for Congress when he decided to retire. The whole thing is completely fake, and we found out it was completely made up so she could run for Congress. She didn't grow up on a cattle ranch. We found the property records. She was not bankrupted by Obama. She actually bankrupted herself when she took a 108-day cruise when she had $350,000 in debt. And on top of that, she was never homeless. She had an $800 apartment, which was apparently so beneath her that she called it, quote, a crack house to a local newspaper. On top of that, when she did get to Washington, she was the chief of staff for Ted Yoho until there was an incident. We know what the incident was, but we're waiting for it to come out in the papers. At which point she was fired by Yoho and sent back to Gainesville, Florida, but he kept her on the payroll. She created her own private consulting company, which was called Grit Strategies, and she started to receive money from Yoho there as his only client. And her husband's lawn mowing company also started to receive money from Yoho. So she had 3 different revenue streams, was making more money after she got fired than before. And then somehow she also got into the Naval War College with a letter of recommendation from the guy who fired her. And the best part about the whole thing, he has still refused to endorse her. And his son came out and said that basically her ambition was bigger than her integrity, and that she was fired, and that they don't want to have anything to do with her. So there's scandal after scandal here, and we have pointed it out, and we like right now it is just incredible what is going on, and it's incredible what our team has been able to find, because like as I said earlier, my job is essentially to catch fraud. It is to look through marketing BS and save people from getting screwed over. And so we're just letting our work speak for ourselves. We have found this, and there are ethics complaints right now that have been filed or are being filed in the Congressional Ethics office, and these are gonna start coming out because this is a big deal. And the way politics has been, we need people to stand up and expose it and be able to speak truth to power and actually show the way that things have been and how we can change it. And that's really what we have been focused on, and it's kind of incredible.
Oh, well, I'm gonna be eagerly awaiting some of the details coming out from that. Just to briefly focus on, I think obviously the most important part of that, 108-day cruise. I didn't know that those existed. I would get so bored, I think. But anyway, wow, that is an amazing life story, both the one that was told and whatever it turns out that the truth actually is. So look, we've covered a little bit about your platform. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. If people watching this would like to get more information about your campaign, where can they do that?
Yeah, so our website is called forthemany.notjustme.com. And that's really been our slogan, our rallying cry, that everything that we are doing is for all of us, not just me as a candidate, not just us as a campaign. And when you got a lot of people that stand up and say that what we are fighting for is for the many, not just me, that becomes a huge movement. And so that is our website. You can find our platform. We just dropped a jobs plan with all of our great ideas, but how they would actually be done here. And yeah, our Twitter is pretty active. Our Facebook is active. And if you want to find out where the cattle ranch is, you can go find that out as well.
Thank you so much, Adam. Really appreciate you joining us today.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.